Hi again then guys, and welcome to another look back into the world of Test Drive Unlimited, this time to the first game with probably my go-to pick of superbike in the game, the MV Agusta F4. Top tier superbike, not only in the game but in the real world as well. MV Agustas are essentially the motorbike equivalent of what Pagani is for cars, that blend between brilliant engineering and just insane levels of attention to detail, beauty, and just this oddball, endearing style which they have, in a similar way as well to Spiker and Koenigsegg, but more so I would say Pagani in this case. Now this bike is one of the fastest in the game. If I remember correctly, it's not the absolute fastest. I believe that was the Ninja ZX-12R DLC bike, which could do something like 230 miles per hour when you duck down out of the airflow. This one though is still extremely rapid. Now in stock form you're looking at 173 horsepower, which of course for non-bike fans may not sound that impressive compared to many supercars, but for a bike that's quite a lot, especially for the time that this game was released, because of course motorbike technology advances very rapidly and the power of bikes increases very quickly with each generation. So 173 horsepower when this bike was released was a big deal, it really was. Now the torque is 83 pound-feet, which again, that's pretty thumpy for a motorbike. That's more than quite a few, for instance, Japanese bikes would have. They would have, say, the high 60s or mid 70 region. So 83, that's a decent difference. And in motorbike terms, that's like an extra, say, 50 or 100 pound-feet in the equivalent car, for instance, that kind of difference. As far as weight, it weighs 187 kilos, which is quite good. Not super light, but definitely not overly heavy, and consequently the horsepower per tonne, to give you a comparison to a car, is 925. That's pretty massive. That is definitely supercar level, which of course in more bike-friendly terms is 0.9 horsepower per kilo. Actually 0.925, at least European money. Now the engine on this one is just over a 900cc, it's a 909 straight 4, and it's a torquey engine, it's a powerful engine, and it sounds, I think, absolutely fantastic. And I think my absolute favourite thing about the first Test Drive Unlimited game is the pleasure of driving and riding vehicles in the game has for me actually never been surpassed by any other game. And I'm talking newer games as well. Even though Forza and Gran Turismo are my favourite franchises, Test Drive Unlimited 1 was my favourite driving game for over a year, and I still have a soft spot for it because in particular when you're riding a bike, as few of them as there are in the game, but when you ride a good one like this, or the Ducati 999R, which is another one of my favourites, or the Kawasaki ZX-10R or the 12R DLC, you really get this incredible feeling riding the bike in the game, especially if you turn the volume on your TV right up, or even better, wear headphones. If you drive, or ride, I should say, this bike with headphones on, turned up, it's an incredible experience. Because as you can see a couple of times in this video, one of the selected camera modes goes beyond the expected, because usually when you have a motorbike in a game, it's the equivalent to a car in terms of the camera views. You can have a close-up cam, a far-away cam, in effect like a bonnet cam, and also, of course, cockpit cam, which on a bike is basically the eyes of the rider. On Test Drive Unlimited 1, though, it goes the extra mile, because not only do you have a traditional cockpit cam, in effect, but you can have helmet cam, and that is the one that you can see in this video, where you've got this kind of slightly musty blue sheen, like the plastic of a helmet, and looking through that, it makes such a big difference. The way that the sound on the bike is muffled just a little bit, the increase in wind noise because of the fact that it's like a helmet, it's incredible. It adds so much to the experience, and it's something which I've never played any other game that even came close to how exciting and how genuinely thrilling an experience riding a bike is on this game. Even Test Drive Unlimited 2 doesn't even come close, although one of the bikes on there is faster, the Ducati Desmo. But even then, Test Drive 1 really nailed it when it came to the experience of riding a bike. Of course, the handling physics are not the most realistic, but the feel, the pleasure, the rush of riding a bike at 200 miles per hour, it has been unsurpassed for me, even on games which I love like Ride or Tourist Trophy. games which literally specialise in motorbikes, they still can't surpass it for me. It's such a visceral experience. Now, as far as how this bike falls against others, it's pretty expensive. It's a 45 grand bike, which at the same time, for those who are familiar with motorbikes, is not a surprise at all. MV Agustas are very expensive, just like Bimotors, which, as I said, I also love. It's one of the most expensive bikes in the game, alongside the Ducati. The 999R is the next closest thing in terms of its rivals, and of course the Ninjas as well, but not so much. They're pure performance, whereas this one and the Ducati are more exotic motorbikes, not just extremely fast ones. Hence the comparison to Pagani again. Now, unfortunately, you can't change the colour on this bike. I really wish that you could, because my personal favourite colour combo on an MV Agusta is blue and white, very Maserati-esque, like the MC12, and that's one of the reasons why I love it so much. But even so, it's a great looking bike. It has a very simple, classy style. That single headlight is iconic to the brand, and the handling is very good. It's not quite as sharp as the Ninja, the 10R in particular. The ZX12R is actually quite big and bloated and heavy through corners, because although it's technically a superbike, it feels more like an overpowered tourer to some degree, whereas the 10R, that's hardcore, pure hardcore track bike, like a Yamaha R6 or an R1 would be. And as fun as screamers like Kawasaki's and Yamahas are, I always prefer these thumpier, more exotic Italian bikes like MV Agusta, Bimota, Aprilia, various others as well, and this is a perfect example of that. It's the best bike in the game overall, I would say. It's not necessarily the fastest through corners. As I said, the Kawasaki's pretty difficult to beat, but for an all-round package, not just for how fast it is, but how desirable it is, how exclusive it is, how it sounds, how it looks, for me this one is the complete package. So if you do go back and play the game, you don't need the DLC, this one's in the game as standard, so I definitely recommend checking it out for 45 grand. It's a whole lot of fun. But that's it for this pick overall. Of course, I'll see you guys next time, and for now, as always, thanks for watching.